Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Having a bit of a rough night already. Oh man, I tell you. Um, but I'm glad to be here. I am very glad to see you. And this isn't any big deal. Um, we're just hanging out and having a good time. I don't have any particular points that I'd like to make or anything like that. I just wanted to say hello and say thank you to everyone for the donations they made. If you hop over to the community center and you'd like to make a donation, uh, please do so at Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate that. I'm gonna get the boom mic out of my way. Can you still hear me, Chris? You hear me okay? Just give me the thumbs up if you do. Because you should be able to hear me all right. All right, very good. So I have a few people I'd like to thank off the bat. One is my friend Chris Engel. Thank you very much for your donation. I'd like to thank Wayne, my friend Brimstone. Thank you very much for your donation at Buy Me a Coffee. Um, I would like to thank Stephen. Um, I don't know if I know who Stephen is, but I'm glad that you know who I am, and I appreciate your donation. Um, and then also someone, an anonymous person, with the email of DAJ30LUN. You didn't think I wasn't gonna find out, right? So um, there we go. Um, you guys are awesome. I was having a bit of a rough day. I'm not gonna lie to you, um, because I work pretty hard on this channel, and it just hasn't been producing back for me. Um, what my tiny, meager little hopes had in mind. But then people all of a sudden, I made a not very nice post about it, and people were like, you know what, you right, you right, and you kind of just tap somebody on the shoulder sometimes, and they go, oh, you know what, that's right, and people really kind of started coming through for me yesterday, and I really appreciate that, and it feels good to get that reciprocity. Yeah, we're going informal today. If you can see my shirt today, my braggart shirt that I have on, uh, with the sleeves cut off to make it more convincing. It's very, very warm here right now, and I am roasting a little bit. You know what happened last year? So I had a couple of really nice air conditioners in my house. I don't have central air because my house was built by the fucking Druids, apparently. And back in those days, they didn't have the capacity for such a thing. So, but I had a couple of really nice air conditioners. And wouldn't you know that both of them took a shit on me last year? you know and I was able to replace one so far, for the bedroom upstairs, which is, you got to sleep, right? You can't sleep while you're sweating yourself to death, so that was the main priority, and I'm still working on trying to get one for the downstairs here. I got a couple fans blowing, but I have 4 cats, so really it's just like, if you love cat hair in your drinks, buy fans, because they will ensure that for you. um but yeah, so we're hot dogging it right now a little bit. So not too glamorous, but still glad to have you, and welcome to the live stream. Tonight's drink is brought to you courtesy of, um, well, we got a little bit of, I like sweet tea and bourbon. That's what I like. Um, so that's what we're rocking tonight. Kind of take the edge off of things. I don't have. I didn't come with an agenda to talk about, but I did want to mention one thing that I saw the other day, and I was like, dropping stuff. Oh, come here. um, I watch a lot of these shows like you guys do. And hey, when you come in, hi, nice to see you. Please drop a like on your way in as your way of saying thank you for the live stream. I appreciate you doing that. And so does the algorithm. It really does help out, as I'm sure you've heard other content creators say. Um, but anyway, I watch these shows, and it has to do that have to do with space and the moon and all this stuff. And somebody asked me in the comments the other day, um, yeah, whiskey with tea it's actually pretty amazing. You should try it. But I'm sorry, one of my cats is trying to sabotage this entire live stream single-handedly. And so like right before I was supposed to come on, one of the cats walked right over the power strip and just went bloop, and I had everything ready. I was just sitting here and I was just waiting to click go live, and she just boop, just turned it off 2 minutes before I was supposed to go live. So then I had to do the flight of the fucking bumblebee to get everything back on and turned on and set up and redone and back to the loving place. But these guys don't seem to listen too good sometimes. Anyway, they're not being very cooperative. But anyway, I was watching this moon show about did we go to the moon? Did we not? Blah blah blah. And while I've heard all the arguments and things like that, the one thing I noticed, and this is what bothered me, is the derision that is put forth to people who dare question. Don't you dare question science. How dare you? Science is there to do your thinking for you, you moron. How dare you use your own brain? And the gaslighting and the arrogance and the unearned arrogance at that. And this is what I mean. This is what I was like, what? So people were like, well, people who question whether or not we went to the moon, they just simply don't understand science. With that Neil deGrasse Tyson type of arrogance and narcissism, which is completely unearned. And I got to thinking to myself, well, okay, so you say that someone who doubts that we went to the moon 55 years ago, well, they're just not following the science. Are you sure about that? Because I'm a person who likes to follow the science. It's what I do. It's all I don't go chasing waterfalls. I stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to. And what I noticed is that if you look at today's science and today's scientific accomplishments, modern science has made the argument that we didn't go to the moon far better than I ever could. Why? Well, the reason why is because we can't go to the moon today in the year 2024. Yeah, we cannot go to the moon. We admit we can't do it. They put off the moon, the moon mission, man mission back to the moon. They put it off for another 3 years until the year 2027. That's how long they've put it off. After spending over a decade, spending $97 billion of the taxpayers' money because, fuck the homeless, I guess. But we can't do it today. Now, if we can't do it today, it really makes the argument that we did it 55 years ago perfectly the first time out on live television seem to be a dodgy prospect. Is it just me? Because you're telling me that we could go to the moon 55 years ago, but we can't do it today? Well, are we getting dumber? are we devolving in our science? Because either you're right, yeah, the people who claim we went to the moon and we did the thing. And look, I'm not saying we didn't go to the moon and we didn't do the thing. I'm just saying it doesn't look like we went to the moon and did the thing the more you look at it. Because anything else from 55 years ago that we struggle to do today? Not much. I can't think of anything. Just the most significant accomplishment of mankind. Oh, and I have something to show you. This is we'll do a little show and tell. This is my calculator from school when I went to go get uh, my technical degree in computer aided drafting, and this was the calculator that I used while I was in school. This has more computing power than what took us to the moon and back, according to the people who tell us that that's what's happening, that we went to the moon. We had this has more computing power than what we used to get to the moon. So basically, you're saying we got to the moon with no technology perfectly the first time out on live television. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, but not a single countries who are capable of actually hitting the moon have ever been able to get a live person there and home safely. They haven't even attempted it. Makes you wonder why, doesn't it? You're telling me that all of these other countries don't have the computing power of a Texas Instruments calculator in their pocket. They don't have the same physics that we have. That they're so behind these people who are landing things on the moon, crooked, falling over, whatever, fine. But you hit the moon. That's pretty good, right? So these people who are just as capable of sending something to the moon have never been able to send a man ever. 55 years later, after we supposedly did it right the first time, they haven't been able to do it at all. Okay. Now, 55 years later, now we can't do it at all. Okay. But you're telling me that we're not following the science by doubting that that happened back then? I don't know. I think the fact that you can't go to the moon today kind of makes the case. Also, the other funny thing I noticed is when you watch, and this is really, I have to be honest, that my only sticking point, well, I have two little sticking points with did we go or did we not go? Yeah. And look, you can call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but you're just calling names because if we're so smart, then why aren't we on the moon right now? You tell me why we can't get people to the moon and back safely 55 years after we already did it. Did the moon become more complicated? No. Did our science devolve into nothing? No. We supposedly are so much more scientifically intelligent than we were then that it should be easy work. Right? Well, we need to stock up on astronaut ice cream for 3 more years? Do we need to study our own physics more? Like, what is it? Right? It makes you wonder. But my thing about it was, one is how do you get off the moon without a thrust vehicle? Because they didn't have one. If you look at the capsule that actually, according to them, uh, popped off the moon and then met with the orbiting with the orbiter that then went back to Earth. Okay, fine. But how do you get off the moon without a thrust vehicle? It may only have 1/6 the gravity of Earth, but that would mean that you would need a thrust vehicle with 1/6 the capacity of what would be needed to get that capsule off the moon, right? And there isn't one. When you watch the return when they leave the moon, you just see pop. You just see like a pop, a little like a little separation explosion happen around them, and this thing just magically fucking lifts in the air. Like it's every time I see it, I laugh out loud because it looks so ridiculous. And then the thing about that is okay, fine, that's how you're leaving the moon. Okay, fine. But then you see the camera pan up and follow it as it leaves. I'm sorry? Did we leave someone on the moon? Is there a cameraman still waiting for us to return to pick them up? They're going to be pissed, right? Because who's running a camera on the ground watching them leave? That doesn't even make sense unless you think about one thing. And if you watch the capsule leave the landing land and go up in the air. If there's a static camera there, you just see pop and this thing just leave like there's no drama. It looks even more ridiculous, right? But but it almost seemed like a directorial choice. Yeah, seemed like a directorial choice that as it leaves, go follow it up. Who was following it with the camera as it left? That doesn't make sense to me. If someone could answer those two things and not just answer them, but actually prove them, this isn't who would win Batman or Spider Man. This isn't theoretical. I need hard data, I need evidence. Okay. Because these guys want you to accept that we went to the moon because they said so. But give me the data, though. I need to know how we got off the moon without a thrust vehicle. I need to know who was doing the camera that panned up and watched the only two people there leave. You know, people, and I want to know why we can't do it now. This should be easy. It should be a day trip for billionaires. They should have like a dome you stand in, and you stand in this square. And when you stand in the square, you can hold your phone up and you can see the earth behind you. And you go, "Hi, everybody, peace," and you take your picture and take your souvenirs home with you. I went to the moon and all I got was a shitty t-shirt. That kind of stuff. Little moon mascots and moon cups with your name on it. But no, we can't even get back to the moon. And this is my other gripe as I sit here melting in my chair. This is why I keep all the astronaut ice cream. It doesn't melt. But who asked these people to go back to the fucking moon? Who asked these people to spend $97 billion of our tax money to go back to the moon? Anybody? Did anybody ask these people to go back to the moon? Do you remember a vote that was put forward to Congress that was talked about in a bill? No, me either. I mean, honestly, I love science. I adore science. I am obsessed with science. But what else we got to learn about the moon? It's a rock. It goes around us. We know what it does here. I don't really think that we need to spend $97 billion to send a couple of jerk offs up to that rock to go what? Collect rocks and bring them back and study the history of rocks. Doesn't that seem like an awful waste of time, money, and resources to you? Now, doing it as an achievement the first time is completely understandable. That this pushes our technology forward, or so you would think. Because did it really? Because if it pushed our technology forward, why do we seem to be regressing? Why is it we can't do this thing that we did 55 years ago, July 20th, 1969? We supposedly landed on the moon. And in today, 2024, March 25th or May 25th, we can't do it now. I think that these people would be ashamed of us. They would be ashamed of us. They're like, "You spent how much money? You spent how many years? We already did this before, and you can't do it now." Ooh, who's the scientist now? Yes. And so these are the type of things that, y- science likes to gaslight you over and say, "Oh, how dare you? How dare you question?" You have to be very careful. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Drop me a like, say hello in the chat. Uh, join it's live stream and chill. There's no big thing. It's just me hanging out with you. I wanted to say thank you to some people. I'd like to encourage you to support the channel uh, during this live stream. If you'll go to buy me a coffee uh, / haunted sky. I would really appreciate your donation to keep the channel going, and I'm very, very appreciative for the donations I've received so far. There's been a few trickle in, but I'd like to really see that change. I'd like to see that increase. Excuse me. There we are. I had a tickle back there. It's driving me crazy. Um, but we have to be very careful when we are talking about science because anytime that you hear scientists talking about something in a way that is sacrosanct, be very careful. When they say you can't challenge this or you're crazy, they're hiding something. Yeah? Because the point of science itself is to challenge things. This reminds me very much of when I got into my little debate with Man Dan that I challenged him to and said, "Listen, this is what I found. I believe I found very good information which changes our understanding at a fundamental level about how the earth goes around the sun." I wasn't arguing that the earth isn't round or that space is fake or no, none of those things. And those are the people he's used to talking to and debating because Man Dan has the IQ of a boiled cabbage. And so what you have to do is he's pretending to be a science person when he wouldn't know science if it pitched a tent in his ass. And so the only people he can take on and really beat in any kind of debate are flat earthers. Literally, if you go to his channel, it's primarily just him. Even to this day, all he does is find flat earthers to beat up on. He's the weak, wimpy kid who now beats up the new foreign kid, at school, like to try to be tough like the rest of the guys. That's all he is. And I saw through that. I saw it a mile away. And I said, "Oh, you're a science guy. Okay. Well, help me sort through this information because honestly, it's a big job." And if you're not aware of what this was, hi guys, thank you for the likes. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you so much for the support and everything I've been getting lately. It means more than you really know. Sometimes these things are what get you through the day. But, I saw this guy and I said, well, shit, help me sort this out because and if you're unaware, what it is that I've studied the Coral Castle relentlessly for the last 16 or 17 years, and I realized the purpose of a couple of the instruments. I realized they were instruments, first of all, that they were celestial instruments meant to mark something, and what it marks is Edward Leedskalnin's research on how the Earth goes around the sun. See, uh, that modern science says that we're on a tilt and we go around the sun like this in a flat stereo orbit. And what Ed Leedskalnin found is we are at an angle, but we rotate at an angle around the sun. We orbit like this. At what my calculations come out to be about 56 degrees. We're at a 23-degree angle and then we orbit at like a 56-degree angle, something like that, above and below the celestial equator of the sun. Now, these are the calculations I have based on his instrumentation. I'm not saying this. I'm saying that's what he seems to show. And it isn't just, oh, I took a couple things, put them together, and came up with this. He drew it on the front door of the Coral fucking Castle. This is the first thing you would see when you walked in, is this drawing of the sun and the earth and the orbit being drawn at an extreme angle like this. I'm not making it up. And then what I saw was, he says, researchers, scientists should come down to Rockgate Park and look at the sundial, the Polaris telescope, and the drawing on the red door and see what they have to tell us about science. Well, none of them have done that. So I decided to do it. And when I did, what I realized is, oh, shit, his instrumentation gives a, a topographical and orthographic view of our orbit. And this orbit, that these instruments that he built that are very accurate seem to show, is that we go at an angle around the sun. We don't do it in a flat stereo orbit. When you compare both views of uh of the interpretation of how we go around the sun, they both appear as though they could be correct, but one is an illusion and one is not. It can't be both, right? And how do you tell the difference between whether one's real and one's not? Well, you do it with data, you do it with instrumentation. Yes, and he built these amazingly accurate megalithic instruments to measure celestial motion. Yeah. And hey, Cody, how you doing? Uh, Scott's Dimension, nice to see you. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your likes. Um, so anyway, I found these things and I put them together, and I realized that the drawing on the red door is taken from the information that he got from these megalithic instruments that he built purposely, mm, to measure this singular thing. And so I said, okay, this is what I have. And I said, I for a little while I put out a few posts, and I invited him nicely. Hey, you're so good at flat earthers. Would you mind coming over, taking a look at my data? I got a hold of him. There was a guy called Planar Walk who he does like to he does, he's a debunker and all this stuff. And instead of having an antagonistic communication, what I really wanted was a collaboration, is really what I was hoping for. I wanted these guys to say, hold on, now you're saying something that is wildly out of the norm for science, but you're coming with data and say, okay, this is how you approach science. Even if you're wrong, this is the method that you need to use, right? But whenever somebody says something is sacrosanct, hold on to your ass, because because again, like my friend IQ TV said, I wasn't being ignored, I was being avoided. And the reason I was being avoided was because my science is science. And these guys don't like science. They like to pretend to do science. I don't play science. I do science. And so after a while, I literally had to just like troll him so hard that it forced him to respond, because people were like, this dude's over here talking crazy. Like, are you going to address that and get his people, his little acolytes, his flying monkeys, to start to question his guruship? Well, so finally he did take it on, and he did just an absolute face plant 3 minutes into it. We decided, he said, oh, I'm going to do a video on this. Oh, don't you worry. He got a hold of me basically to say, stop trolling me. I heard you. And I said, okay, well, when are you planning on doing it? I'm going to do it in 2 weeks. Okay, fair enough. So 2 weeks went by. Where's the video? Oh, well, I had to put it off for another week. And I jokingly said to him, did you have to phone a friend? Because I know that he doesn't know what I'm even talking about when it comes to astronomy. And it turns out that my little joke was actually true. What I said was actually spot fucking on, because he did have to phone a friend. He phoned his friend who was a physics teacher, and that should scare the shit right out of you, my friend, because him and a physics teacher both failed my astronomy course. And by the way, the part they face planted on wasn't even the part I was arguing. I was simply, this was the preface. This was just the me laying out the scientific things that you do to measure celestial motion. This wasn't me saying anything crazy yet, nothing that you could really take issue with. This was all just giving you the boilerplate science that you need to understand what I'm about to say next. That was it. This wasn't my theory. This was already established science. This was this is stuff that you're supposed to learn. I don't know if you necessarily learn this in school, but if you are going to learn astronomy, well, these things are pretty boilerplate. And these things concerned um, different types of celestial motion. There's, for instance, the daily rotation of our planet. But then there is also the annual celestial motion. In other words, if you look at the North Pole, exactly north, right, where our North Pole points. Well, what you'll see is you'll see that Polaris, our North Polar star, is actually slightly off by about 2 degrees from actual true north. It just happens to be the closest star to our North Pole. It's a circumpolar star. And so if you are perfectly aligned north, what you would see, and you see this in a lot of pictures you can Google, and you'll see that the North Star makes a small circle in the sky around where our actual North Pole points. And it'll do that every night. But then there is also annual celestial motion, and this is the orbit of our planet around the sun. And so while you will see that North Star every night make a little circle, annual celestial motion will make the North Pole starting point change throughout the year in 360 degrees. It'll still make that same circle every night, but where it starts from will change due to the fact that we are changing our position around the sun. Now, this is the most basic kind of astronomy. This isn't arguable. This isn't negotiable. These are some of the most fundamental aspects of reality as it applies to tracking celestial motion. Well, he made an entire video that didn't address any of the actual controversial points I was making, because he face planted 3 minutes into the video by denying to over 250,000 people, because the dude has a head like a box, but he gets clicks. So he was going to use this, and he said this man's trying to rewrite all of astronomy. That was the accusation. When I wasn't trying to rewrite astronomy. Edward Leedskalnin, it wasn't trying to rewrite astronomy. We were simply challenging the existing astronomy based on scientific data collected from instrumentation. That doesn't sound so crazy to me. Um, but where he face planted was he spent his time denying that annual celestial motion exists, that it is a part of astronomy. He tried to basically gaslight and say that I made it up. Him and a physics teacher, he said, the best that we can come up with. The best you can come up with? Do you not have Google, sir? Because you could have just literally typed those words in and hit enter, and it would have showed you. several sources where you could go and go, oh no, that is a thing. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah, that is a thing. But no, he instead preferred to gaslight me and astronomy by denying that this form of celestial motion even exists. These are people who aren't even qualified to talk to me. Well, look, I'm nobody. I'm an asshole wearing a Genius t-shirt with sleeves cut off. I'm not qualified. They're not qualified to talk to me about astronomy. Okay? Like they can't even get past the most basic scientific part to even get to the real meat of the matter. And guess how they treat the sun's motion, how we go around the sun? They treat it as sacrosanct. Now, anything that's sacrosanct is automatically sus. Period. 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 You say that how dare we challenge that we went to the moon when we can't go to the moon today? You're going to tell me that I have no right to challenge your established fairy tale with scientific data because I'm a conspiracy theorist. Tinfoil hat, that guy. How dare he bring data into my dojo, right? When this guy wasn't even qualified enough to understand the basic astronomy that he's defending. Do you see how hypocritical that is? You see how hypocritical that science is today? Now, I'm not saying I'm right or I believe I'm right about what I found. I'm pretty sure that Edward Leedskalnin knew more about astronomy than Simon fucking Dan does, because at least Ed knew not only what annual celestial motion is, but he also knew how to build a megalithic structure, set it into place with such frightening accuracy that you can still track it to this day if you go down there. If you go down there and you look through the Polaris telescope, you will see Polaris in one of the four quadrants of the crosshairs. And it's not really a telescope. It really fits the description of a sextant. And a sextant has one job, and that is to track the position of a star in the sky. You see. But this is what happens when they run into somebody who actually understands science and wants to challenge it. No scientist, no real scientist should ever care about their science being challenged, because nothing is sacred in science, and that's the point. You can say that we go around this way, and by the way, I was showing instrumentation, I was showing measurements, I was showing locations, I was showing data, and he showed graphics. Are you serious? You're fucking with me, right? Like, I show you instrumentation, I show you data, I show you calculations, and you show me a fucking picture that somebody drew of it. Your argument isn't, I'm sorry, but you forgot to carry the two here. See, if you carry that two, you see how now this comes. No, no, no. He said, forget your instrumentation. Forget your observations through uh, accurate instrumentation. This is a graphic that somebody drew on a computer. So that's true. And what you said is garbage. Like, what? What? This isn't science anymore, guys. And it's no wonder we can't get back to the fucking moon. It's no wonder, because everybody stuck on stupid, like just everybody, that we can't look at things and say, you know what? I'm going to challenge that. And this is how we make science stronger, is through the challenges, not through trying to humiliate people who do challenge it. It's your opportunity. And this is how I presented it. I said, I'm not trying to challenge. I would like to be educated. Please, please show me where I'm wrong, because I would love to learn. because I really would love to learn. If I'm wrong, then let's figure out how we went wrong here because it's a great opportunity to learn and to teach others. And what he tried to do was he just simply tried to humiliate me when really all he did was he humiliated himself publicly. But more than that, and this was the part that I feel like um was so it made me so fucking mad was when basically several hundred, maybe 1,000 people were coming over to my channel, which was great, but they were all coming over now telling me that annual celestial motion is made up. Type it into your fucking phone. Are you what? They didn't even try to check to see if what he was saying was right or not. They simply assumed it was. They let his little tinfoil hat thing get to them. They became brainwashed. And then they came over to my channel to deny already established science as though it were controversial. Not only did that make me angry, but it terrified the shit out of me because how easily fooled are people, how easily misled and brainwashed they can be. And when you are being a scientist, when you are have a science channel, when you are a science guru who people come to for their scientific information, well, you have an enormous responsibility that he did not take seriously. It reminded me very much of like when Bane fought Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, and I felt like I was Bane and he was Batman, and people always expect Batman to win. Well, of course, Batman always wins because he's got his billions of dollars and his special suit and his belt of gadgets and his armor and all this stuff. And he's used to taking down common thugs and criminals who have none of those things, right? And then he runs into Bane. Mm. And Bane's a different animal in that movie. And the fight scene in The Dark Knight Rises is one of the most important scenes, I think, in comic book movies because it's a lesson about people. Mm. It's a lesson about arrogance because Bane just straight up beats the dog shit out of Batman and lectures him while they do it. And he said, "Victory has defeated you." Yeah, you see, Batman won so much that he took it for granted. He assumed he'd always win because he's him. And victory has defeated him because it made him weak. All he takes on are flat earthers. He's Batman beating up the purse snatcher. Good for you, Batman. Good for you. But I'm something different. You see, he says, peace has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you. Yeah. Victory defeated him. And so he thought I was one of these when really I'm something else. I'm believe me, I hear that a lot. You're something else, buddy. But in all seriousness, I'm a person who takes science very seriously, and he misinformed these people. In order, and it wasn't just him. Him and a physics teacher teamed up to face plant and misinform people over something this wasn't even the argument. This was me just setting up uh the rules of how astronomy works, and that Ed Leedskalnin was using their astronomy, scientifically established astronomy, nothing controversial, and he made it controversial by denying it and then misinforming all these people who then came over mad at me saying I'm a whack. All this stuff is really more about perception today than really about reality. What happens when you teach people to regurgitate info instead of teaching them to think and the best regurgitator wins. Thank you, Yvette. I like that. And I like you. Thank you for saying that, because that's what it is, isn't it? It's not about who's right anymore. It's about, do you get clicks, bro? That's all that matters. Do you know I could sit here and explain something very basic and very simple to you? And some asshole can go on Joe Rogan and say the complete opposite, say something completely fucking wacko, right? And people will agree with the wacko because they have the biggest platform. Well, he must be smart. Look how many people are listening to him. Since when? Since when are the facts a fucking democracy? It's not. Truth is truth, facts are facts, science is science, real is real, right? I don't care about I mean, your perception of reality needs to align with reality. Yes? And isn't that really, when you think about it, isn't that what science is? It is the correct observation, interpretation, and explanation of reality. That's science. And who's more real than this guy? Nobody. That's who. But I have a very small audience because very few people are able to perceive reality on reality's terms at a certain level. At a certain level, people's intellect just tapped out. They just tap out and they just cannot literally perceive it. This is the problem that I believe that we face when it comes to UFOs, about extraterrestrials, about alien abductions, about all these things, is that it's not a matter of evidence. It's not. We have the evidence. By the way, hi guys. Thank you for coming in and joining me. Please drop a like when you wipe your feet on the welcome mat, and feel free to join in the chat. Make comments, ask questions, whatever you'd like. I don't have an agenda tonight. I'm just kind of I'm just free flowing right now. Um, Cody said, "Don't we orbit like a DNA?" Ah, I know what you're saying. You're saying we have a spiral orbit. Yeah, we do have a spiral orbit because if you think about it, right? And Dr. There was a guy, Dr. I want to say Bhat, Indian fella, who created a model, which you can watch a video of, which is beautiful, by the way. But it shows that we spiral as we move through the universe because we are moving through the universe. This is the other thing that astronomy and science doesn't really seem to take into consideration with celestial motion, and that's the fact that we are hurtling through the void of space right now at 69,000 miles an hour. We are hurtling like a rocket through space around other objects that are also hurtling through space. And this motion does not create a static circle, but a spiral as we are constantly being pulled and chasing our celestial anchor, which is the sun. And yes, Cody, that was well said. I didn't understand it first. You said like DNA, and I'm like, how's it like? Oh, a spiral. Yeah, that is right. Um, so this is, and what we have is the problem of it's the problem is partly intellectual when it comes to the denial of UFOs and of extraterrestrials, alien abductions, and things like this. There is an intellectual barrier where people just can't think at those levels. But there's also the psychological rejection of anything that if it seems too hard, if it's too hard for us to do, it's impossible. It can't be done. Right? I don't get that. I actually admire when I see something happening that I know humans can't do. I'm like, oh, that's the future, right? That's exciting. Like, oh shit, that's the future for us. If we can just hang in there and just not be so fucking dumb, we can see that this is the future. Are you kidding me? And also, that's the other thing too. Let's talk about that. All these people who are science deniers, or they want to they want to say that you're a conspiracy theorist. Okay, you're a conspiracy theorist. If you say, I'm not so sure we went to the moon because we can't go to the moon now. Why the hell would we have been able to do it 55 years ago? That seems like a pretty logical argument to me, you know? But you have these same people who say that you're an asshole for daring to challenge the sacrosanct moon landing. Well, these same people will also try to tell you that we're building UFOs. Oh, well, if you see something like this, oh, that's a secret government project. Really? Well, that's interesting because the same people who you say are building UFOs that defy all the known laws of physics can't get their fat asses back to the moon. You're telling me the people who are figuring out UFOs haven't figured out rockets yet. That's what you're telling me? They're talking out of both sides of their ass. They're completely full of it. Again, people lose their way when it comes to science, and they listen to people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I gotta be honest, I want to debate him so fucking badly in a public forum. Get me on Joe Rogan. Like literally go ask them, will you have him debate RL Pool? Because we're either gonna win or we're gonna laugh. It's gonna be one or the other. And I have to tell you, I've never been afraid of a fight just because I thought I might lose. Fuck that. I would put this man in his place and he would be exposed even more than he is now, by just the fact that he incessantly talks until you discover just what a pompous ass he is and really how little he has in his pockets as far as it relates to applicable scientific knowledge. Oh, you want to go out to breakfast and you're hungover and you just let this guy talk and tell you a bunch of science trivia. Hey, great. You want him to get you to the moon. Well, why haven't they tapped you yet, Neil? Why hasn't NASA tapped you for the big job? Because you're a poor academic. That's why. Um, so you have these people talking out of both sides of their mouth. Like these people who tell you that UFOs are really secret government projects and aliens aren't real, but also we can't figure out rockets and get back to the moon. Which one is it? It's like the people who are like, and I'm not trying to be political, but it's just funny. Like when I watch the news, I hear shit. People, Republicans and stuff are like, "Oh my God, Biden is a mastermind who stole the election and did this, and now he's got Trump in court on false charges. No, he tried to assassinate him." But this is also the same guy who they say can't put two sentences together. Well, which one is it? Because you're talking out of both sides of your ass. You know what I mean? Like, pick a lane, guys. I'm not challenging it or whatever. Say whatever you want to say. I'm just saying these narratives directly conflict with one another, don't they? Obviously. You can't have Mr. Magoo is also the fucking mastermind behind everything, the puppeteer pulling the strings behind shit that nobody could pull off in their dizziest daydreams. And you also can't have people who fucking are building UFOs, but also don't know how rockets work anymore, apparently. You can't have both. My man Wayne, what's going on? Thank you for your donation, man. I appreciate you. Um, I'm glad to see you. Hope you're doing well, sir. The interpretation of perception. That's right. That's kind of my job. The interpretation of perception. And my interpretation of their perception is that they got things kind of fucked up, guys. And we're not super geniuses who are figuring out UFOs because we're idiots who still can't get back to the moon 55 years later. Does that make sense? You can't tell me that I'm not allowed to challenge science. Science is built on challenge. Now, if you're going to challenge, bring your A game, okay? Bring your data, bring your argument, bring your thesis, and it's not about how passionately you argue your point, but about how far your data drives that way of thinking. If we're not allowed to challenge science anymore, we won't have science anymore. What we will have is a techno religion. Mm, That's all we'll have. Excuse me. That's all we'll have. We won't have it's no longer science, it's techno religion. Because when things become sacrosanct, when things no longer become challengeable, now it is dogma. And dogma is what happens when intellect loses objectivity, isn't it? People like Neil deGrasse Tyson, do you think if you put me and him in a room in a battle of wits to the fucking death that I'm not going to walk out alive wearing my shitty t-shirt? I would annihilate this man because I'm not in it for the TV spot. I don't care about the talk shows. I'm not even interested in the Joe Rogan thing unless it's to do something important like this, where it's to just vivisect a narcissist live in front of the planet. I'm not interested in the attention. I'm interested in progressing science. I'm interested in educating because really at the end of the day, that's what I am. That's my passion. I'm an investigator and I'm a researcher, but I'm also a teacher, and this is what I like to do. I like to educate people on subjects that they're unfamiliar with, the quirky, the fringe, the things that other people are afraid or not qualified really to talk about. And those are the things I specialize in. And um, so I care very passionately about the facts. And I care passionately about being able to challenge the facts. And when I bring you instrumentation and you bring me graphics, somebody did their homework and somebody watched the movie instead of reading the fucking book like they were supposed to. Right. Um, and so these things are important. They are important to challenge because when we challenge these things, we become smarter for it. And what I notice are the Simon Dans and the Neil deGrasse Tysons of the world. Um, what they want to do is they want to put you down for daring to challenge. How dare you ask? We got this. That's the fucking answer that Neil deGrasse Tyson gave to Joe Rogan when Joe Rogan was like, "Hey, how does gravity work the way it does?" And instead of Neil deGrasse Tyson saying the only answer really that they have, which is, I don't know, his answer was, "We got this, okay? I can land something on Mars. I think I know we understand gravity." Well, that's a very poor example of demonstrating your mastery over uh, the control of dimension 4, isn't it? Because if you understood gravity, we wouldn't be building rockets to fight gravity. I- If we understood gravity, we would be able to create, manipulate, control, and defy it. All right. As I've said before, we understand the electromagnetic spectrum to at least some tiny measurable metric because we can create electricity and we can control and we can manipulate and we can do all these things with electricity. So we've demonstrated our understanding. And so far, the only thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson has that defies gravity is his fucking girdle because nothing he's done scientifically has proved that statement to be true. Um, People have lost common sense and the ability of critical thinking. That is correct, sir. That's right. I just want to take just a quick second just to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having these conversations with me because these are the conversations that need to be had in this world. This hypocrisy needs to be confronted by someone who has the ability to clearly see through the subject and see through the bullshit that is being spread all over the truth, right? And if you like this channel and if you enjoy this content, would you go over to Buy Me a Coffee / Haunted Sky, make a small donation to my channel. It really, really helps. And don't hurt yourself. Just any small amount would really be appreciated because I know you don't have to. Okay. Just like I don't have to do this channel, you don't have to support it. But if we both do our job, I think that we can make some major changes because who in their right mind could hear what I'm saying and go, oh, oh shit. Yeah, I guess that is right, isn't it? Who can argue with what I'm saying? And these things are plain, they are obvious, but humans have this great ability to muddy the waters, don't they? They have the ability to kind of confuse us if they do enough double talk bullshit. They can confuse us and they can get us to actually believe that we're building UFOs when we can't take our ass back to the moon in our rocket. Flash Gordon 1969 rocket. We don't have them down yet, but we're building these UFOs and flying them around. Oh, yeah, secret government project. And by the way, these same people who expect you to provide the most outrageous evidence to challenge their assertions, which seem to be suspect, want to give you explanations with no evidence whatsoever, right? They're like, oh, well, if you see this, these are government projects. Can you show me one of these? Oh, that's the TR-3B. Oh, yeah, show me a TR-3B. Oh, well, it's a secret government project. If it was a secret government project, your dumbass would never know about it. Okay, it's propaganda, right? It's a way of making people feel like they know something, but without having to prove a damn thing at all. There's a lot of that going around lately, isn't there? Right? And you know, I'm the monkey in the wrench, my friend, the turd in the punch bowl who says, excuse me, I have a question. You know that guy in the movie? Yeah. I'm that guy in the movie in real life who just goes, hold on a second. Are you sure about that? Because so and so and so and so. And so we see these things being done to us, but people are busy, right? Like you're out trying to make a living, man. Like this isn't what you do for a living. So while you're out doing what you're supposed to do and making your contribution to the world and to your family, these people are behind the scenes trying to play the shell game with you and trying to trick fuck you into believing stuff that isn't true while not allowing you to challenge anything that you think isn't. You see, it's all a game. And I'm here to show you how the game works. I'm poke holes in their stuff all day long. And that's why do you think I haven't been on television? Am I not a compelling speaker? Do I not have good points? Am I not handsome enough? No, it's not that. It's that I'm inconvenient to the narrative. Oh, let's say it like it is. I'm fucking devastating to their narrative. And when I do it, I'm going to do it in a way that they're not going to enjoy. Their ego will never recover from what I say. And that's how sensitive people are now. Don't challenge anything. Oh, don't hurt their fifis. Don't do that because well then people might not like you. And since when has the truth ever been about popularity? Never, right? And I admit, I know that I don't have a great. I've noticed that my numbers are going up lately. I think people are starting to come around to the idea that these talking heads that keep being put in front of you aren't really saying much of anything at all, and they're doing even less. These people who tell you this and that, they can't do shit though, can they? Demonstrate your knowledge or you do not possess it. That is the standard. And that standard was burned into me by Edward Leeds Scullman. You see, that was his standard. Can you demonstrate? Oh, There's people who say they know how the pyramids were built, have never moved a stone, but they'll sit and tell you all day long, right? Here, let me catch up on my comments. Thanks for the likes, guys. Thanks for being here with me. Um, Energy is money. Oh, well, that is the truth. I mean, energy is a commodity. It is commerce, right? And we run on business. So yes, I agree with you there. That is true. That's why I enjoy listening to you. I don't know enough to intelligently discuss astronomy or physics, but I'm very suspicious of anyone who can't explain what they're saying. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Yvette. That's very sweet. I appreciate that. I hope you keep coming back and listening. We need more people who are willing to listen. That seems to be the big thing is too many people want to talk and not enough people want to listen. We have too many unqualified people like Simon Dan, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like Stephen Greer. Like these people are they're professional trolls. Like they do nothing but skew the truth, and they give them popularity and they give them a platform, and here's a nice suit and we'll put you on the Gaia network or on Joe Rogan or some mainstream thing, because the more people that you can convince, the more true it seems, right? Right in the face of people. Entertainment is making the job. Atticus Martin, how you doing? um I like this dude's style. Totally believe his story. Wild shit. Yeah, it is true. I mean, I mean, there's nothing I'm saying really that's very controversial, right? I mean, I'm just pointing it out. And that's the thing is, I have my moments where I occasionally, you know, trip the light fantastic in the intellectual realm and have something wise, pithy, or original that I've come up with that I'd like to share. But really, my gift is simply noticing the obvious that everybody walks by, and I go, "Hey, hold on, look at that. Has anybody ever seen that part before?" And they go, "Oh my God, how did I miss that?" Right? Like that's my job. I just see what everybody misses. That's all, you know. And I'll give you an example of like how my brain works as like being an autistic person is so let's say we're watching a movie. I'm very fond of Harry Potter movies, and I like kind of immature stuff. Um, but when let's say we're watching a Harry Potter movie, well, the neurotypical person, they're watching the characters in the foreground there, and they're listening to the dialogue and they're watching the expressions on their faces. I'm not. I'm looking at everything else except what is obviously right in front of me. And you know why? I figured out why I do this because the obvious doesn't interest me. The obvious I can always come back and see, but it's what's in the background that often tells you way more of the story than what they have 6 inches in front of you. That's what they want you to see. But it's the peripherals, the details, the things that are overlooked that are the most important. And it's really the pay dirt, really, of discovery, of science, of uh, conquering our perception of reality. Hmm. Um, Trump and Putin are two good examples. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. People who just say things. It's propaganda, right? I think that's the point that you're trying to make is these people, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Simon Dan, Stephen Greer. These are propagandists, and you know that they're propagandists because they're allowed to speak on such a wide level because it's helpful to keep you just keep going to those jobs. Do not look at the man behind the curtain. Don't pay any attention to that. We got this, right? They don't got this. It's the opposite. They don't got it at all. Don't tell me you understand gravity and you can't get a rocket to the moon. Don't tell me you can land something on Mars when you can't land something in the yard next door. You can't land something on the moon, but you're gonna put it on on the moon. You're gonna put it on Mars, but you can't get anything to the moon. That's like saying you can hit a home run, but you don't know how to bunt. What? You're not a baseball player. You're a bullshitter. Sit the bench. All right. And these are people who should be sitting the bench in this world. They should not. If Let me tell you something. If Neil deGrasse Tyson ever was at NASA for a rocket launch, if if he pushed the button, seltzer water should squirt him in the eye. It should be fake. There should be no way that that man gets to be around anything that is actually important because he's an ego with a thin veneer of person wrapped around it, this guy. And he misinforms people all the time. He says arrogant things. He makes all these arrogant statements. He puts down people who question legitimately, like people like me who legitimately question some of the things in science. This is a propaganda network. And you say, oh, it's another conspiracy, and it's not a conspiracy. It's just a like interest. These people don't sit around and have a meeting in some big cabal. They just have they just have like interest. That's all that's necessary, and their interests are money, fame, and influence. And as long as you feed that beast those things, they will continue doing it by themselves. You don't have to tell them what to say. Just, I know how he is. Just, he'll keep talking. Just keep putting him on shows. Just keep lining his pockets. Just keep feeding the ego of this person, and he'll misinform people on his own. We don't even have to tell him what to say. He'll do it on his own. Right? Do you know about Brazil alien story Varginha? I think the three girls found a creature. I was just watching that, Atticus. I was literally just watching the Varginha story, and it was about, yeah, and they said they found them. The girls did. They ran into some little creature. They were walking home, I think, from a concert or something, and they just stumbled across this little brown-skinned, red-eyed being hiding uh, from people. And it actually, if I remember right, the story goes that this was actually something we shot down. We were testing a rail gun against these uh, UFOs, I think as a defensive thing. And they shot it down and it landed in Brazil. It crashed in somewhere in Brazil. And these creatures were seen in the city of Varginha, and they were collected as specimens, and so was their craft, and they were whisked away. And everybody just gets told to be quiet. They're controlled. See, you control the military. Now you control everything because you control communication, you control travel, you can intimidate because you have all the weapons. You see, the military is in charge of controlling the populace, and these things get swept away and forgotten about. But the stories, like these three girls in Varginha who told this story, those stories live on in the culture, like the stories I tell about my abduction experiences with these beings that are the small grays that I've interacted with for 40 years. Not every day or anything, but like over that period of time. It started about 40 years ago, and it's continued up until what, September of last year. These stories are the most important part. And also, smell was very bad. Heard, yes, there was a cover. Oh yeah, there was definitely a cover up. And yeah, I heard they smelled really bad, like compared to us. Like I think that it might have been from the ship. It could have been from the ship because they said it was like an acrid sulfuric smell, which only added to the it's a demon kind of thing that people like to say. Oh, it smelled of brimstone, which for those of you who don't, brimstone is sulfur. That's just an ancient way of the ancient name for sulfur is brimstone. So they and the red eyes and the odd appearance made them say, "Oh, it's a demon." No, it's an alien, and you just don't understand that because people back then didn't have science. So instead of science to explain things, the only thing they really had was superstition. So everything was just explained in a superstitious way rather than a scientific one because science wasn't a thing yet. So we have these people from way back in the past, in the dark ages and beyond, who didn't have science, so they're explaining things or describing them in super what we would call superstitious terms today. And people want to carry those superstitious terms forward and keep them alive, even though science really has corrected those things if it was just given the opportunity to do so. All right, my voice is starting to get a little tired. But if you have any last minute comments that you'd like me to read, or you have any questions that you'd like to put forward, I'll be happy um, to do that for you. We'll just wrap it up real quick as I look at my imaginary watch. I don't wear a watch generally unless I need to. I wear these. You know what these are? Does anybody recognize these? I'll just give you a second to look at them. But these are I haven't taken these off since I bought them. I'll give you a second to guess. No, the tattoos are not Illuminati. Again, this is the all-seeing eye that comes from Egyptian times. Um, but the bracelets are they are called collar top bracelets, and these are actually featured in the movie The Avengers. Tony Stark wears them, and he uses them to call the suit to him. Uh, but anyway, I bought them because they're cool, and Tony Stark wore them in the movie, and it was very uh, difficult to get both of these. You can't even find them now. Um, Alan Parson Project fan. Oh, very nice. Um, yeah. So let me see. There is a world network of high definition camera telescope in development since a while. I think that civil initiative can really help. We must bring out the science of standard zone. I'm not sure if I know what you're talking about there. Um, oh, do you mean for UFO monitoring, like the comings and goings of UFOs on the planet? Because a lot of these things defy radar, right? So it would be they would use these satellites. Yes, civil initiatives. Okay, yes. So it'd be these civil initiatives is different types of surveillance used. So we have radar, we have satellites. We would have these um, high definition camera telescopes from the ground looking up, the satellites looking down, the radar sweeping across, and we're trying to do all these things to track these craft. Um, for those of you, if you missed last week or the last live stream I did, I think it was like a week and a half ago. Please go back and watch that. I think you're going to enjoy it. I talk about some really cool things in there, and one of them, and I think Fascism Watch, I think Atticus Martin, and Yvette. I think you three would really enjoy what I have to say that starts right about the 16-minute mark about what I think is going on with some of these craft that are crashing on this planet. I have a theory about this, and it's a very interesting one. And I think the way I explain it is it's kind of cool. Um, it's about a speech that I think some of these beings are given, and I think you would absolutely enjoy it. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I want to say thank you so much for being here again. You didn't have to, and you have spent a very good portion of your Saturday night with me, and that means a lot. I always enjoy these talks. I never know where they're going to go. I always have a plan. It never goes to plan. I ended up being all over the place talking about different things. Um, but yeah, please go and check out my live from the last live I did. I think you'll really like it. Also, please drop a like and please consider making a very small donation. And let me give you the address for that. There you go. If you'd like to make a small donation to the channel, you'd like to keep these live streams going and things like that. Because I got to be honest, I work really hard for you guys. I personally talk to you. I don't ignore people. I personally talk to you. I read your messages. I answer your comments. I answer your questions. I make these videos. I do live streams. I do educational videos. I do everything I can to help every single person who wants to know anything. I go out of my way to personally do that for you. And I don't know any other channel that you can say does that. And it's because I really care. And if you really care, then reciprocate that back to me. And please, let's keep this channel going and let's keep this great thing that I think we are building alive. Okay? I will see you next time. And I so appreciate it tonight. It's been a good time. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you do. Have a great night, guys.